Pascal Siakam is on his way to the Indiana Pacers after months of trade speculation. The Raptors looking to move on from their all-star forward, a player they drafted 8 years ago and has been with the franchise through thick and thin, winning a title in 2019. His time in Toronto has come to an end, and he'll be joining up with superstar in Tyrese Halliburton. And while I actually love the fit of Siakam on the Pacers with a core of Halliburton and Miles Turner, young role guys and Benedict Mathurin, Obi Toppin, we'll ultimately see what happens with Buddy Hield and whether he'll be moved. I think this trade make the Pacers even better. A team that has been hovering in that 4 to 6 range all season, but was this the right play for the Indiana Pacers for the long term? Going all in on Pascal Siakam, a player who is on an expiring contract, is soon to be turning 30 years old. Is it worth giving up 3 first-round picks, 2 of which are in 2024 and then another in 2026? Was that the right play for this team to build around their young superstar? Did they need to make an all-in push already this season? Well, let's talk about it. As always, be sure to subscribe if you like the content. In return, I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, the Pacers got off to an incredible start to this season. They were putting up jaw-dropping offensive numbers as a team. They had the highest offensive rating and points per game average in NBA history. They were playing with incredible pace, flying up and down the court, moving the ball with ease, high-level shooters to help space the floor. Everything was clicking for this team, and they were one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. But then they came back down to earth a bit and went through a bit of a cold slump. And it was clear that while the Pacers' offense was elite, incredibly efficient, their defense was another story. A team that can certainly win a lot of games, they can score a lot of points in a hurry, but on nights when they get cold, it's going to be hard to win games when your defense is bottom 5 in the NBA. And for the Pacers, because of how good they have been, exceeding expectations and making a big leap from last season, they knew they were right there in being able to get to the next level. And adding an all-star player in Pascal Siakam, a skilled veteran on both sides of the ball, a player in his prime, was an avenue to get there. But here's the thing. While I love the move for the Pacers, I get that they're in a small market and being able to build around a superstar isn't easy, and it's rare to find yourself in a position where you have a franchise player you can build with for the future. To me, this just seems way too reactionary. And I know some will say, 3 first-round picks that are more than likely going to be late first-rounders. The picks in 2024 being the Pacers' own, which you would assume with this addition is going to be a late to mid-first-rounder. The other pick in 2024 is the worst of Houston, Utah, Clippers, and OKC. So again, likely a late first-rounder, given the worst will either be OKC or the Clippers. And then in 2026, you'd have to assume that the Pacers are going to be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, at least you would hope anyway, given they're making such a bold move. But late first-round picks or not, you shouldn't view these as the picks selections themselves and what they could net. You have to view this more from an asset standpoint. You can do a lot with 3 first-round picks in a package deal, whether in packaging them all together or separately for a more well-rounded return. So while I know some will say, who cares about those picks? You're unlikely to hit on a gem in the late first round anyway. It's more so that if you're willing to give up that amount of draft capital, you likely could have gotten an overall better return than for a player who's about to enter 30 and a player that you're going to have to pay a max contract to in order to retain him. That's the other thing. There is no guarantee that Siakam re-signs. He's set to become an unrestricted free agent this summer. Now, early reports have already indicated that he intends to work with the Pacers on a contract extension, which you assume that was part of the discussion in the trade because there wouldn't be a chance the Pacers would trade that much if they didn't have the assurances that Siakam was going to re-sign with them. But unless they extend him in the next week or two, what if things don't go well? Say the Pacers start struggling, Siakam doesn't like the fit, the vibes are off, and he says, I'm going to test free agency. And maybe he signs somewhere else. Again, I think that's incredibly unlikely because the Pacers will do well with Siakam and they'll have the most cap space to be able to re-sign him to that max offer sheet they're just looking for, but more so just saying there is a risk here still in Pascal Siakam re-signing. But the biggest risk is mortgaging your future assets for Siakam. Future assets that could have been used in a trade deal maybe this offseason or next season at some point, when there are maybe better and more opportunities out there. This just feels very rushed to me when you know as good as the Pacers are, they're still not going to be able to compete against the likes of the Celtics, Bucks, Sixers in a 7-game series. In my view, this move doesn't separate themselves from the pack and makes them title contenders. They're just not there yet. And because Halliburton is so young, I'm a bit perplexed as to why they felt they needed to make this all-in type move now. This isn't a situation where you have a superstar whose window to win now is closing. Halliburton is 23 years old. And as I said before, I get you're a small market team and you kind of have to make these bold moves to land another star player to put alongside another superstar, and who knows, maybe this works out perfectly. Siakam gives them just enough of an edge to put them in the status of the Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers, and Siakam re-signs, maintains his high level of play for the foreseeable future to match the timeline of building around Halliburton. I just personally think that this is a massive overpay for the Pacers. I wouldn't go as far as to say the Raptors fleeced the Pacers, but for the Raptors, a team that had no plans to extend Siakam, a player that was gonna walk for nothing if they didn't trade him. They didn't have much leverage in the situation. I personally thought the Raptors would be lucky to get one first-round pick in a deal for Siakam. To come away with 3 picks, and picks that are in the near future, not 7 years out, and at least at the time of this recording, the 2 picks in 2024 unprotected, and in 26 is top 4 protected. And we also shouldn't just brush off Bruce Brown and Jordan Nwora either, who were included in the deal. Nwora is whatever, and while Brown has kind of had a down year and has been overpaid, but he's still a solid role player that you could potentially flip later on for something down the line, given he's not going to fit with the Raptors' timeline of a rebuild. So I like this move for the Raptors. I like the Raptors saw their roster wasn't going to be going anywhere, and they're tearing it down and starting fresh with a rebuild. It's the way to go. And getting this kind of value for Siakam is incredible. I am excited to see how the Pacers look for the rest of the season, because this was already a fun team to watch, and now adding a dynamic star forward in Siakam is going to make them all the more exciting and must-watch TV on League Pass. Let me know what you guys think of the trade, though. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.